What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. It ends Tottenham 0, Bournemouth 1. Tottenham's first defeat of the season, first goal conceded. But we'll be analysing the game, discussing it in detail. What went wrong? Is it too much to look into? And all the details. But let's introduce tonight's panel. It's here with me. Firstly, welcome to Peter. Welcome back on the podcast. How you doing?
I'm right, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks so very much for coming back. Remind people a bit about you and what you do.
Nice. It's a pleasure being back on here. I've missed it. I'm just a big Spurs fan on Twitter, as it says, Poro season. Yeah, I've come here to talk about the game. That's it, really.
Exactly that. No, thank you. I wish you could have been in better circumstances, but nonetheless, thank you very much indeed. Justin, welcome back onto the podcast. Again, how are you doing? And remind people a bit about you and what you do. Indeed. Justin, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for letting me come back. Just a massive Tottenham fan. I normally post on TikTok. I work at Tottenham as well, so yeah, it's kind of like a lifelong dream.
Never ending. Love it. Absolutely love your commitment. Thank you very much. And debut on the podcast, Jacob, how are you doing? And again, tell people a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I've been on this YouTube channel stuff for a little while. I had a couple of years out because I was just busy working and essentially sorting my life out. And I wanted to get back on it last season, but Tottenham depressed me that much that I never found the motivation to do it. But then I had a good break after winning the European trophy and just thought, I need to get out on it because there's too many people that have been asking me to get back on it. So I normally do YouTube, just started up on TikTok, and I normally just jump on people's podcasts throughout the week and get my opinion out.
Oh, lovely stuff. That's what we like. Lovely. Again, thank you very much for coming on. No, it's all good. Really appreciate it. If you're listening live on YouTube, please do get in touch. Like, subscribe if you're new. If you're listening afterwards on a podcast platform, please drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Let us know as well where you're listening from, and shout out to our partners in the Kitman UK. So let's run through some stats before we get into it then. So here we are. Possession starting with Tottenham 62%, Bournemouth 38%. Shots 5 Tottenham, 19 of Bournemouth. 1 shot on target for Tottenham in the game, 6 for Bournemouth. Expected goals, so that's your XG, 0.17 for Tottenham, 1.45 for Bournemouth. Completed passes, 394 Tottenham compared to 207 of Bournemouth. Pass accuracy, 83% Tottenham, 70% Bournemouth. 18 touches in the opposition box for the North London side and 29 for Bournemouth. 104.7 distance covered in terms of kilometres for Tottenham compared to Iriola's Bournemouth of 107.1. So there are just some stats to pick out for you there, which I think does paint the picture. But I want to start on a positive before we get into maybe all the negatives and what went wrong, how do we improve, and that is Scarfey Spurs, who was introduced to the Tottenham fans ahead of the game. I'll tell you what, Jacob, we'll start with you. I mean, there's a real buzz, wasn't there, around the stadium at that point? I think just people were just so excited to see him.
Yeah, it's one of those. Well, obviously, you need that because the way we were set up squad wise. You looked at there's no Maddison, there's no Kulusevski. Pretty much till at the very earliest the new year for Kulusevski. So I did worry about creativity, and with Thomas Frank being a pragmatic manager, I just thought we needed that bit of magic. Now Kudos has been bringing that to us for the last sort of 2-3 games, and I thought, yeah. He's brilliant. Now he's a brilliant player to watch. He's been my pick of the players, but apart from the 2 assists at Burnley, he's not really getting the help. And I called it when we played Burnley itself. I said, if you stop Kudus and stop the directness into Richarlison, you pretty much beat Tottenham, and we found that out at the weekend. But then hindsight's a wonderful thing. But if we played the same game yesterday with a Xavi Simons in there, at least even though Bournemouth were on top of us, you've got a player that could produce a bit of magic, could produce an assist. When I was looking at either one of our midfielders, I was looking at our left winger, I was looking at it thinking, who's going to give the ball to Kudus? We were just playing long balls to him, long balls to Richarlison, and Bournemouth sussed us out. So we do need to play like that. It's a lot of Tottenham fans have gone mad as if we've got Messi, but Xavi Simons isn't going to do this on his own. I still feel that the window's been a sort of 6-7 out of 10. Bring me a left winger and another centre half, and that's when we can start talking about Tottenham pushing forward. But yeah, of course I'm happy with the play. I remember when we missed out on Eze, I went on a podcast that evening, and everyone was demoralised. And I said, look, we were going for Eze and we were going for Savinho. Now I asked the panel on that channel, if you got to the point where you could have Eze as well as Savinho, or meet two players in the middle in Xavi Simons and Semenyo as a package, and each package is going to cost you 150 mil, which one would you choose? And that's when everyone started thinking straight. I was like, if you had Xavi Simons and Semenyo, everybody wanted Eze because he's Premier League proven, but take that out of it. If you can guarantee every single player of those is going to hit the ground running, I'll have Xavi Simons and Semenyo. So the only thing I'll pray for, as much as we've got Xavi Simons, if I wake up in the morning and I see a yellow bar on Sky Sports saying Semenyo, then that's when I get gassed.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd be the dream. Totally agree with you. We'll get on the transfers in just a bit. Thank you very much, Jacob, for that. Peter, what are your thoughts on signing Simmons? How big is it?
I mean, I personally, I'm really excited about this signing. He's one of the first like social media wonder kids to actually make it, wasn't he? He's been out the media since about 12 years old. So for him to sign for our club it's a big statement. And for he's only 22. Let's not forget that. He's still really young. He's come with Champions League experience already. He's already won trophies at Leipzig as well. I think we've really got a star on our hands here. It's just yesterday really showed the creativity we missed. And I'm really hoping he could provide us with that creativity.
Fingers crossed. Totally agree with you. Thank you very much, Peter. And Justin, would you go as far as saying that Simmons is better than Gibbs White or Eze? I had to get into this conversation in terms of comparison and looking back on something we didn't get and don't have. But where does he rank for you among those two?
Well, for me, he was one of them. You know, you have like your list of players what you dream to have, and then you got the realistic Tottenham hat on. You think, oh, okay, really, we can only get these sort of players. He was in that list of players what I would dream to have. Like, first of all, the length of his contract, by the time that's done, Eze would have retired. So I'm just adding that bit in there. But on a real level, like, for what he can do, even when you just look up on the stats wise alone, he does outdo a lot of the players already. It's just the difference is he'd been in different leagues, and we've only seen obviously like Morgan Gibbs White and Eze in England. But to be honest, we've got the superior player. He's got the biggest ceiling. We can't lose, especially with a coach like Frank as well. He'll able to see all the weaknesses what he has in his game and able to tweak that. And then we're missing creativity, and we forget that we've gone 3 games without no creativity whatsoever. Obviously, just hoping Kudus can do everything, and naturally, we already know you can't just rely on one player to make everything happen. So yeah, much needed. And West Ham for the first game, you couldn't have it better than that.
No, exactly that. And Justin, we're sticking with you for a second. We all know how long it took to bring in number 10. We're all frustrated and thought we should have done it quicker. But do you think the club deserve credit in the end for bringing in Xavi Simons? Because that deal itself seemed to escalate and happen very quickly, didn't it? You know, looked like he was going to Chelsea, and 24 hours later, he was a Tottenham player.
Yeah, at the end of the day, no matter how much we can send for the owner, at the end, like as long as you get the business done. Obviously, dream world, we'd love all our business to get done early, but unless you're 2-3 years old, you know what Tottenham's like. You know how we do business. So as long as we get it done, because we're not going to act like that's the only good signing we've made recently. So we have to give them a little bit of a round of applause. Well done. Just don't publicly embarrass the fans. That's all I ask. If you'd have done what you did and flopped the deals and no one knew about it, no problem. But because it was so public, that's where the horrible bit, what we have to deal with on a daily basis of the banter. But the season will speak for itself when Xavi does his job.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to him getting going. I love the way he talks about wanting to set, his own story. It all sounds good. But let's get to the game itself then. Tottenham starting 11, people didn't see it. The routine, I would say now. Vicario in goal, Porro right back, Spence left back, and Rayo van der Ven as the centre backs. Midfield 3, Paulinho, Bentancur, and Sarr, and Kudus, Richarlison, Johnson up top. We'll come back around to you, Jacob. What were your thoughts on the lineup at the time?
I could understand why Thomas Frank went with it, but because of the last 2 times we've played against Bournemouth, I know it sounds bad, but I was crying out for the setup that we did against PSG because I know that they press really well. So my thing is that if they pressed us, we haven't really got the ballers that can get out of a press. So when I looked at it, I thought if Bournemouth press us and we start playing long balls and they suss out that Richarlison, or basically I said to myself, if Richarlison has a stinker, we're screwed. And that's literally what happened. Now, obviously, again, I keep saying hindsight's a wonderful thing. People think I've said that after the game. But for me, if you had the three at the back, just the same way we did against PSG, because we all knew PSG were pressing side, they didn't know what to do. But then effectively, if Richarlison's up there with Kudus, you know, you're not only pumping it to Richarlison, you're pumping it to both of them. And Kudus is somebody that you wouldn't think would win headers and win a lot of battles, but he actually does. Like we've seen him against PSG, Man City, just pushing people off the ball. I think Bournemouth needed a bit of that because towards the end of the game, when we started looking like a bit like ourselves, that's because we took a midfielder out. We stuck, you know, Tel in there, Odegaard, Kudus, and Richarlison, and all of a sudden, Bournemouth centre halves didn't know what was going on because they didn't know whether to come or go. Whereas it was pretty easy for Richarlison. It was light work for them. So again, though, I'm not going to sit there and say I was pulling my hair out and crying about the formation, because as much as that's what I wanted to do, because I know these players that we've got, a lot of Tottenham fans forget what they put us through last season. So fair enough, we've done well against PSG, we've done well against Man City, we've done well against Burnley, but I've always said with Thomas Frank and the group of players that we got, I'm not too worried about when we play the Man Cities and the PSGs and the Liverpools. I'm more bothered about when we play the Burnleys and the Bournemouths and the Wolverhamptons, because Thomas Frank wants to be the underdog, and a lot of these players are used to conceding early, you know, and just packing it in. And we saw in that game that the minute that we conceded first, we didn't know what to do. And the reason why we won the last two games is because we scored first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, good points there, Jacob, as always. Thank you for that. Justin, I'll come to you next. Is that lineup what you expected at the time?
Yeah, I expected it more because of how we played against Man City, and it was a bit hard to then drop Paulinho. Can't really drop Johnson after he's just scored. Richie got, obviously, there's no one else to put him in the spot, so I wasn't really expecting him to change it. But I was more worried about the creativity side again, because when you're going against Man City, cool, everyone knows it's time to step up, and you're going to do a bit more than you would normally do in the average game. But when you're taking on a Bournemouth, we will respect them, but I know the players will still look at it, it's like, well, it is still Bournemouth. We should still be winning this game. And then the simple things, what you want them to do, they're not going to be doing. And when you've got no creativity in the middle, that's why I was at least hoping Bergvall was going to play, or play Odegaard on the left, just so you have to split that defence a bit more. Because I love Johnson that he gets his goals, and I'm not here to send for him, but naturally the defenders aren't worried. So they know we only need one man to mark him, 2 to 3 men to mark Kudus. And if Richie's not controlling the ball, then you don't even need to do much. Just put a bit of pressure on him, and the ball's bouncing back. So I was worried about it, but again, because it's Frank, it's a new manager. I want to see what he's going to do when he gets stuck in a situation. And he showed that we just don't have that quality to really change a game or to go into any type of game without no creativity.
Okay, no, again, I completely agree with everything. Do you know what everyone said tonight? So thank you very much, Justin, for that. Peter, I'll come to you before we move on from the lineup. Anything you would have changed at the time? Of course, it's easy to look back now and go, I would have done this. But at the time, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, like it was mentioned earlier, hindsight's a wonderful thing, you know. But I think Thomas Frank last week against Man City got tactically spot on, but this week, I think he got the lineup wrong. For me, at home to Bournemouth, you shouldn't be playing both Bentancur, Palhinha. I don't think that was necessary. And it was mentioned earlier that Bergvall should have started, and I completely agree. I think you play one of Bentancur and Palhinha with Sarr and Bergvall, and you have that extra bit of creativity to break down Bournemouth, because we didn't seem to manage the midfield. I think Iraola got it spot on, and we really lost the battle in midfield in that game, especially in the first half. We couldn't get any sort of control, and I think that's why Bournemouth managed to dominate. Also think the back five wouldn't have been a bad shout. But for me personally, I think Bergvall coming in would have been the best option.
Okay, absolutely. I look at it now and think definitely as well. So thank you for that. Let's move on to the game, because in the 5th minute, Bournemouth scored through their striker, Evan Nilsson. Justin, I'll come back to you for this one. I mean, firstly, a very good move, wasn't it, by Bournemouth? Very slick, very smooth, and, you know, opened us up really well. That'd be fair to say.
Yeah, I don't want to take nothing away from how Bournemouth played. They've done their job, especially for that goal. But again, this concentration levels. So naturally, PSG concentration levels got to be top. Burnley, first game of the season, concentration levels top. Man City concentration. But now it's like oh, it's Bournemouth. We got our travelling in a couple of days' time to go do international. It doesn't matter as much. That's how I just look at the concentration, because the way the ball come in, I just feel like certain players didn't react quick enough, and by the time you knew it, the ball was already in the back of the net, and we got opened up a bit too many times where the quality of Man City, I was expecting them type of openings, but that was not there. So then when you're only really worrying about one person on that left wing, how are you then creating so many gaps? It reminded me of that one pass and ball straight through the middle, and we're about to concede.
Yeah, it did. It felt very much like the Ange days. Totally share that with you. A lot of people do feel the same. Jacob, bring you in on that. I mean, it's far too easy, wasn't it? You know, far too open from Tottenham. It did feel like, didn't it, watching a Tottenham side and Ange Postecoglou, knife through butter.
That's it. I was watching it with my son. He's only 9, but I felt like I was saying to him, like, it felt like Ange needed to go. Oh yeah, before the game, here's a DVD of Bournemouth away last season, because if you remember, it was literally a carbon copy. We lost 1-0, but I come out of there thinking, how do we not lose 10? And the thing is, though, the players need to speak up on that as well, because they must have gone through that game. I remember we got absolutely slaughtered, and for me, it was like, it's like a lot of those players played under the Ange regime. We just turned up and just thought, yeah, because we've got good results against Man City and PSG, that we're just, Bournemouth is going to turn up and go, oh, this is the new Tottenham Hotspur. Whereas Bournemouth don't do that for nobody. Not under this coach. They've lost players. He don't care. He plays it. He plays football properly and defends well. So I just think that the Tottenham players and the coaching staff didn't realise what was happening. Like Thomas Frank might have played Bournemouth with Brentford, and Bournemouth might have given Brentford a bit more respect, so he must have maybe took it easy. But the players should have understood that in both times we played Bournemouth, they gave us a hard time. We lost 1-0 at their ground, and I remember being 2-0 down at home last season before we brought it back to 2-2. So yeah, it was just too, the goal was too easy, but the whole game was easy for Bournemouth. Like, realistically, they must be scratching their heads thinking how they come out of there 1-0, because that, I can name chances where they could have easily won that 7-0 quite easily, because I don't remember any chances where we did anything. I remember when Lucas Bergwijn put the first shot on target, and me and my son were taking the piss because we got a shot on target. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just, but yeah, going back to the goal, pretty easy. Realistically, it was a lucky goal as well, but even though it was a lucky goal, it's everything that Bournemouth deserved and more, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Peter. Would you say it was important for Bournemouth to get that goal early on? And it's always, isn't it, important for an away team? And Bournemouth, the times they played us, I think last year, went 2-0 up, didn't they? We picked them back to the end 2-2 in the second half. So they knew they had to take their chances and go ahead early, didn't they?
Yeah, like you said, it's always important and key to get the first goal. Bournemouth aren't an easy side, and it was said earlier. I think the mentality for the game was quite wrong. It was almost like we went there expecting to win, and we just didn't take them seriously enough as we should have. Because I mean, the first 30 seconds, I think Sarr had a chance, and I was thinking, wow, we could really get a couple goals here. And then 3 minutes later, they scored that goal. I mean, it was a well played pass from Senesi into Evan-Nilsson, and although it took a deflection, it was a good goal. And like it was said earlier, they could have scored about 5 if it wasn't for Vicario. He was amazing yesterday. He really saved us. But yeah, I think the Bournemouth goals, getting the goal that early, I think it really was a mood killer for Spurs, and it just gave Bournemouth that extra confidence. You could see there was that extra pip in their step, in their play, and they were really dominating the game, dominating the midfield from that point on. And we, in the first half especially, we couldn't really get into the game, and I think that's what really cost us the game in the end.
Yeah. And sticking with you, Peter, it was 1-0 Bournemouth at half-time. They were loud boos half-time. There were also the final whistle as well, because I was there, but half-time mainly. What do you think of that? Can you understand why there was boos?
I can understand frustration from some fans because of the performance, but for me, it doesn't warrant booing after 3 games under a new manager. I think you've got to give the new manager time. You can't be putting that much pressure on the players and the new manager to be booing after even one half 3 games in, especially after we had a really good performance against PSG in the Super Cup. We beat Burnley and a great away win at Man City. I really didn't think it warranted a boo, to be honest. But I can understand some fans' frustration because the performance in the first half, especially, was really, really poor. But I for one, am against the booing.
Okay. Jacob, what do you make of the booing?
For me, fans are entitled to their opinion, and I think if it was possible for them to, I don't think the fans were booing Thomas Frank, because I think you've got to give Thomas Frank a blight. He's learning on he's going to learn on the job. Like for me, when we won the Europa League, and I thought, Andy's going to lose his job. I thought whoever comes in, I'm going to have a season off, because normally the stress that builds in with me as a Tottenham fan is because we ain't won anything. Now that we've won something, I thought, you know what, new manager comes in, I can relax, and he's going to learn a lot about these players, because we can all sit there and blame Ange, but there was some games where players were making mistakes, and essentially if players weren't making mistakes and it was Ange's tactics, we might have finished 10th, won the Europa League, and he would have kept his job. If every fan could say that where they were booing it at, then some of them players you've got to be booed at, because you're getting paid a lot of money. You didn't put in performances last season, and there were some players there that were putting in performances that were similar to what they were doing last season. So if it could be like, if you could go up to every single fan and say, what were you booing for? I don't think it was anything to do with the manager. I just think it's the display, and it's just taking us back to where we were last season, whereas we all thought that we're all coming into a new era. But I said it to many a Tottenham fan, you just got to be mindful that don't get too gassed, because if we could play against PSG, Burnley and Man City like that, if we're playing like that every day, every week, we're going to win the league, aren't we? But when I say that to them, I say, do you think we're going to win the league? They're like, no, we'll prepare for losses then.
100%. Thank you very much. A good point as well made in the YouTube chat that says most of the boos was for the referee. Terrible performance from him. I mean, when I heard the boos, I didn't even think of that at the time, but the referee, I mean, we'll get into that, but I think it was absolutely shocking. But Justin, Bournemouth in complete control in that first half. Would that be fair to say for you?
Yeah, complete control. And to be honest, we made it easy. Funny enough, a game like that, I was thinking this could do with maybe a Kinski in goal for the actual distribution, to at least get better accuracy on where you're trying to hit the ball. But other than that, the way Vic was saving us, Kinski can't do that. But it was easy. It was easy. And to be honest, it's not that hard when you've got three defensive midfielders and you press them and none of them really want the ball. It's not going to be that hard to get past them. When you got a Maddison on the pitch, or a Xavi, or a Kulu, even a Bergvall, they're going to call for the ball. Whether they lose it or not, they're going to continuously call for the ball, turn, and try and make something happen. So it was bound to happen sooner or later. The annoyance is because our normal record is we beat Man City, we normally lose. A game before the international break, we normally lose. So then to pray that a brand new player and to do that as well and pull that type of performance, that's the annoying part. But man, Bournemouth are a good team, and we just have to respect it and see what they did against Liverpool as well, and think they're not here to be playing games. The players should have known better, and these are the times where I want certain players to then step up and say, I need to take control. No matter what, I just need to continuously take control. And I'm not expecting that from Sarr right now, because again, he's only 22. So then that's now Paulinho or Bentancur to be doing that role. And there's only a certain level of quality what they've got to able to really do that creative role.
Okay, thank you. It's a good point. Spurs did put in a good performance against Liverpool, so that's a very good point. But Justin, I want to stay with you. Did you expect to see any changes at half-time, or did you expect us to improve instantly?
To be honest, I'm quite realistic about the quality in our squad, so I wasn't really expecting too much. They're the type of games I was thinking we need a Dom Solanke, so when he's not on the bench, that's already a problem. I'm not expecting Tell to do that type of role of the hold-up game, and because that's not actually how he plays. We can train him into that, but that's not his type of game. So then I'm looking at the rest of the bench. Obviously, it'd have been a risk, but I would have risked not even starting Porro, or saying to Kudos, I know you don't really want to, but I'm going to put you over on the left. I'm going to push Porro up to right wing, and his guy play there, and we got Spence behind him. Doggy's guy to just ride it out, or play Van der Ven on the left, play Danzo in, just something else to deal with the problem of their left winger. So because I knew none of that was going to happen, there wasn't really much I'm expecting because Wilson's not going to now able to come in and do something magical. I'm not expecting that right now. So then who else is there? Solomon. I'm not even going to talk on Solomon. Who else? Davis. What's Davis going to do? Gray. Is he really going to come on and change the game? Who else is there at this moment in this squad? And it was exactly the same for the PSG. As soon as the subs happen, the quality is going to drop. Who's actually going to be there to do the job? And at the moment, we just don't have that. So I'm just grateful that it was just 1-0 because the score sheet would have looked horrible at 5.
I think we can all agree. Bournemouth very dominant in that first half. We'll get onto what the second half looked like, but it didn't change much at all. Thank you, Justin. Jacob, I'll come to you. A lot of people mentioned it in the chat, so it's only fair to bring it up. Antoine Semenyo was on a yellow card, and there was a possibility he could have got sent off. It was something that was very briefly looked at and cleared. Have you seen it back? And if so, what do you think of it? Is there anything in it for you that could warrant a second yellow card?
Yeah, he should have been sent off. When I was looking at it, I was thinking, how have you not got sent off? But for me, you're just going to sound like Arsenal fans, really, or football fans in general. Because what happens is that if you look at, for instance, Man City when we beat them 2-0, there was more decisions to be spoke about in that game for us to benefit us, but we didn't speak about that. Why? Because we won 2-0. Right, we was all jumping around, all loving it on the weekend because we won 2-0. But now we want to talk about Semenyo getting sent off. I didn't hear anybody talking about James Trafford apart from when I turned on Match of the Day. So again, decisions got to be made. People blame the technology. It's not the technology; it's the idiots using it. He should have been sent off. But again, it's one of those. If he gets sent off, we probably do find an equaliser and win the game. But again, do I have confidence that because Semenyo got sent off, all of a sudden, all those players that were having a stinker are all of a sudden going to turn it on? No. There's a few things that Justin said, and it's true. It's like there's, with me, I looked at that, and normally, if Tottenham play like that and we lose 1-0, I'm screwing. The kids are coming up to me saying, "What's up, Dad?" And I can't even speak because I'm screwing, yeah? But with that one, I was calm. I was cooking dinner, and my son was like, "Why are you not bothered?" I said, "Because he's learning on the job." Like, for me, if we go and play Bournemouth again, or it gets to the point where we play opposition where their left winger's the strongest player and he's athletic and he's quick, just like Semenyo. If I see Thomas Frank stick Jed Spence on the right as a right back, and he sticks a doggy at left back and he goes on a back three to cater just in case Jed Spence does struggle, then I'll go, all right, cool, you're learning on the job. But then if we go and play, let's say we play Bournemouth next week and then I send Pedro Porro out there again, then that's when I'd be like, right, you're not getting it. Like Pedro Porro is a right back that if you give him the freedom of that right hand flank and we're dominating the game, he's probably one of the best in the league. But going backwards, if you pin him backwards, just like Areola did, he's going to get exposed. It's the same sort of philosophy with Trent. You know that if you play Liverpool and you peg Trent Alexander backwards, you've got a very good chance of beating Liverpool. That's why Man United used to get results against Liverpool a lot of the time because they'd stick Rashford out there. And if Trent went forward, Rashford would just make him look stupid. Whereas when they're at Anfield and they're not bothered about Trent, Trent's going along, putting 1,000 crosses in, and at some point Liverpool score. And that's the similar thing that we're going to do. So for me, going forward, I think if you want to play Pedro Porro completely and Thomas Frank wants to learn from it, just play him when they're in a left winger that's going to deal with him, because otherwise he's just going to get exposed, just like a lot of other players. And I'm sure we'll go on to that as we carry on with the show.
We certainly will. Thank you again for that, Jacob. In the 54th minute, the Spurs made substitutions, a double change. On came Lucas Bergvall and Wilson Odobert, and off came Yarpolinia and Brennan Johnson. Peter, I'll come to you with this one. I mean, would it be fair to say that the midfield looked overrun? And this is something I noticed just even from a few minutes in the game, and it just didn't disappear. It's weird because that midfield three have been so good up until this game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think Iraola got it absolutely spot on. In particular, Alex Scott and Tyler Adams were phenomenal yesterday. I mean, I have to admit that Tyler Adams, he completely ran the show yesterday. I was so impressed with his performance. But I also think we kind of played into their hands as well. When we were playing out from the back, we were so deep, but we couldn't progress the ball forwards into the midfield, and we kept losing the ball. And there were transitions in our half, and we didn't really want that. So I can see why we were overrunning the midfield, and I thought we were going to change it up and go long more often and try win the second ball, but Thomas Frank didn't decide to change it. regarding the subs, I was really happy with them. I thought both Bergvall and Odegaard were both really bright sparks when they came on. I would have liked to see them come on at straight away after half time, but I guess 10 minutes in, it wasn't really too much of a difference. But yeah, I think Bergvall should have started the game rather than coming on as a sub, because we really did lack that creativity going forwards yesterday.
We did. Sticking with you, Peter, forward line, I mean, non-existent, wasn't it? I mean, we're making changes there with Johnson coming off, but it's just ineffective. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, we can say ineffective, but I think our brightest spark this season has definitely been Kudus, and he got doubled up on yesterday and really didn't have the support he needed to create anything. So when one of our players is getting doubled up, we really need to try get the ball to the other side. And unfortunately, Johnson was not that outlet yesterday. And I really think we should have started with a Wilson, Odegaard, or Tell, just have that difference in attack. And also, I know Solanke's injured, but I would have really loved to see him start, because I think Solanke's a phenomenal striker. And as much as I love Richarlison and his performances so far this season, really he was non-existent yesterday. And I get he had no service, but I really think we need, in a game like yesterday, we really did need Solanke.
Yeah, we totally did. Real shame. Hopefully he's not out for too long. Thank you, Peter. Jacob, I'll come back to you. Peter mentioned it there, Bergvall. What were your thoughts on his cameo? Would it be fair to say that he was one of our better, if not our best player in that second half when he come on?
Yeah, he did change it. Again, Bergvall's good because he drives with the ball, which is something none of our midfielders from yesterday do. Paulinho, you can rely on him to break up the attacks. You got Bentancur that keeps it ticking, and then you got Papsar that will just run around like a maniac and just go and put pressure on everyone. But we didn't really have anybody that, if we won the ball back, because every time we was winning the ball back, we was giving it away. So Bergvall's probably the closest thing you've got. But even with Bergvall, he hasn't got that pick of a pass. He did do a lot better than any of the midfielders that we did, but I think he was probably fueled because I don't know if you lot seen before the game how he was kicking off in the warm up, because it's pretty obvious that he found out they weren't in the starting lineup. So he probably had a bit of fire in his belly, which a lot of people are criticising him for. But I like that. I'd rather, I've played for football teams, not at Premier League level, obviously, but I've played for teams where someone's been put on the bench and they're all right with it. And I just look at them sometimes and think, well, what's the point of you coming if you're happy to be a sub? Do you know what I mean? When I'm expecting to play and then someone goes, "Oh, Jake, you're going to sit this one out," not only you're a sub, it gives you the flag. Like, I just want to go home. Do you know what I mean? But then when I come on the pitch, that's when I've got the fire on belly sort of thing. So I'm right with Bergvall doing that. And that's probably the reason why he came on and did well. But, again, I just, when I looked at the squad that we had, the lineup that we had, and then I realised Solanke ran on the bench and Richarlison was pulling off that stinker, I just thought to myself that I don't see how he's going to change this, because the main thing that needed changing really was our attacking threat, and we didn't really have anything.
100%. No, well said again. Thank you. Justin, can I talk about Wilson Odegaard come on? I mean, should he have taken that chance to want to be blasted over? I mean, it was right where I was in the kind of upper shelf, and I was like, come on, this is a perfect chance. He just seems to, I don't get too excited, just keep his head down.
Yeah, no. This is where a lot of fans need to just get to a point and understand we're going to either have Johnson there, who's going to finish it, but bring nothing else, or we're going to have Wilson, who will create things, but then get them type of opportunities and maybe not finish them. Of course, we'd have loved it. I think he had another one last season where it was like a simple header he should have scored. But yeah, that's not him just yet. So I wasn't too angry at it, to be honest. I was just happy that I'm going to see someone who's going to actually be prepared to take his man on and just create something, and at least make the ball stick to them. And I think that was one of our main problems. Of you couldn't rely up front or to the left because the ball wasn't sticking. So then all you can do is hit it to Kudos, and then if he's got 2-3 men around him, he's not been able to keep the ball anyway. So. But I'm always happy to see Wilson play, to be honest. Until we get that solid left winger, for me, he's our first choice.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the 71st minute where Spurs made more substitutes. On came Destiny Doggy and off came Pedro Porro. Peter, I want to come to you about this. Would you say it's a game to forget for Porro? I mean, we all like him. Myself, I think he's improved a lot, but not his best game, was it at all, up against Semenya?
Yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm one of Porro's big fans, but I think I mean, as we know, Semenyo's a quality left winger. He's one of the best in the Premier League, I have to admit. And for me personally, I know Destiny Udogie wasn't fit to play the full 90 minutes, but I would have loved to see Udogie start on the left and Spence on the right, just because I knew Spence would be able to handle Semenyo's, physicality and pace a lot better than Porro. And it really cost us the game, to be honest, when Porro was pegged so far back because of Semenyo's dominance. So I think the sub was good. And when Udogie came on, he looked actually really fresh. I mean, I didn't expect it because he's just come back from injury, but he looked really sharp, honestly. So I'm quite excited for a possible pairing of Udogie and Spence, especially in games where the left wing will be really tough to defend for Porro.
100%. Thank you. Justin, I mean, Porro just couldn't deal with Semenyo. I mean, would you say has struggles or has a problem against dealing with like these kind of physical wingers? Look at Semenyo, go, of course he's tricky, he's quick, but he just seems to be really, maybe aggressive is the wrong word, but very physical, very strong, and Porro just can't seem to find a way to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with Porro's strengths, and I've understood his weaknesses, and defending is just not one of his strengths. That's all it is. When he's going to take on someone who's very good or elite, it's going to be a problem. That's why, again, it was helpful, say, when Doku come on and Kudos was just like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to let you cook this guy. So I'm going to make sure I stay with you. But then if you have that continuously, you're going to lose the output going forward. So that's why, again, I'd have preferred, at least even if we'd have played Kudos in the 10 and push Porro up, because I don't want to lose the attacking side of what Porro brings and the creativity, what he brings. But defensively is always my worry. So again, it's either go free at the back so he's got cover, or move him further up the pitch, play someone else and risk the left-hand side a little bit. But for me, we've got Van der Ven who can easily cover it left back on days, and then you can just play Danso, and then you've just got solid back four, pure height and strength, and you don't have to worry about it too much. But to be honest, that's Porro. We're just going to have to get used to. Defensively is not always going to be there, but if we need to rely on someone attacking and to get out of a sticky situation, especially in a press, he can beat his guy, he can send the ball, but yeah, I just feel like him and Spence need to just do some personal training, and Spence just needs to show him this is how you knock a defender down.
That'd be nice indeed. Justin, sticking with you here, focusing on Semenyo now. We've said our piece about Porro. I mean, Semenyo ran the show, didn't he? I thought everyone at Bournemouth played well, but he was totally the ringleader, if you like. And would he be the dream left winger sign? I can't see it for a minute happening. But if you could choose like left wingers out there that is available or within reason, would he be top of your list?
Yeah, he's up there. Him, Lookman. I'm cool with Savinho as well because I like tricksters. Someone who's going to make me stand up every single time and think, "Oh God, what did he just do?" But yeah, when it comes for what we need right now to take us forward, yeah, ideal. Got the two Ghanaians on the wing. Yeah, we'd be loving life. Let's be real.
We absolutely would be. 100%. Again, thank you. So let's say, well, Jake, I'm going to you first. In hindsight, very easy to say, as I said earlier, should Spence have started at right back and been the one to go up against Semenyo, knowing he was the danger man in the Bournemouth side and knowing maybe how good Spence is in these 1v1s?
Yeah, it's one of those, you've got to remember, like I said, Thomas Frank's learning on the job. Me, as a Spurs fan, because you've been watching games week in, week out, it's like, I'll give you two things to think about when it comes to Pedro Porro. So, for instance, when we played PSG and we played a three at the back, the reason why he was comfortable against, was it Barcola and even Carvajal went out there is because he was able to meet them higher up the pitch because we had a three at the back. So he has to move up forward, so it gets to the point where if he meets them high up on the pitch and misses his tackle, Pedro Porro knows that he's got a beast like Danso behind him, so then it gives him a bit of reassurance. But on top of that, another example that I'll give you, do you remember when we played West Ham last season and Kudos, the player that we've just bought of them, absolutely ripped him a new arsehole? Right, to the point that when we signed Kudos, they all had a little bit of banter in the change rooms going, "Oh, thank God that Kudos has signed these. I ain't got to deal with you next season." So he gets to the point where if Kudos did that to him, I know that Semenyo is going to do that to him. So then we either play a three at the back or you don't play him because he's just going to get rinsed. I'm sure Pedro Porro wakes up in the morning and thinks if there's any, he probably doesn't like any African wingers. Any African winger that comes up against him that's been eating hard food for his whole life, he's just going to make sure Pedro Porro don't sleep.
Absolutely. Keeping him on his toes. Love it.
That's it.
Jacob, is it good on a positive note, though, to have Destiny Doggy back, to have the extra option and have, whether it be him pushing Spence or pushing Porro, whoever it may be, push his way into that team? Do you think he also walks into the team? Has he got to fight his way to get back in that lineup?
It's the thing. A lot of Tottenham fans, because Jed Spence has been so good, everyone's talking about, Destiny Doggy. I mean, I was hearing people saying sell him and stuff, but I'm like, he's a good option because there's going to be times where you're playing away games and you need physical fullbacks that can get up and down. And realistically, a Doggy, when he's fit, and Spence are the two best fullbacks going up and down to give you that athleticism and pace and strength. So, if you went and played a team that have got a Semenyo on the left, on the right, but you've got a Doggy and Spence, you kind of think we're still going to be tough for them, but they've got the strength and they've got the athleticism. Whereas you look at a Pedro Porro, he hasn't really got it. So I'm happy that a Doggy's back. And of course, he's got to fight for his place because there is going to be games where, you want Pedro Porro in there because he has got a good cross in him. He gets us quite a few assists and he's important on set plays as well because if Pedro Porro is not playing, I don't really know who I'd want to take corners. I don't know whether Xavi Simons has took corners. I haven't really watched him to see whether he can take a set piece. It's been more about when he picks up the ball in the final third. But for me, every player should have to fight for their position because, it doesn't matter whether you're playing for Tottenham, Burnley or Real Madrid. If you're a player that hasn't really got to fight for your position, then from my opinion, you're not going to get the best version of yourself when you're looking around and no one's really competing for your position.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that, when Harry Kane we never had to worry about this because, always 10 out of 10 performances, but I think it was a couple of games around, where he wasn't at his best. And the same with anyone, you shouldn't be like the profile you are, even what you've done for the team. It sounds horrible, but if you're not playing well, you shouldn't be in the team. It's as simple as that, forget the profile. And, I totally share that with you. But we move along the timeline and progress in the game. 76th minute, Tottenham again, a substitution. The final one is Matis Tel on Pat Matasar. Peter, final roll of the dice, wasn't it? All out attack. What are your thoughts, though, on Tel's cameo? Was it more promising?
He didn't really have a lot of time to actually get into the game. Even when we did make the subs, we couldn't really get into the game as much. I know we were pushing hard for the goal, and he had a really good shot, actually, a really, really good shot that just went wide. But I felt even then, I never felt confident that we were going to score, even after we made these subs. And I even thought Bournemouth were going to nick one on the counter and make it 2-0. So it almost felt like a last throw at the dice from Thomas Frank there, like, put everything out there. I think we went into a 4-2-4. When Matis Tel went on with Tel and Richarlison up top, which I didn't mind. It was something different, but unfortunately it didn't work and we couldn't find that goal in the end.
No, we couldn't, unfortunately. Thank you. Justin, I'll come to you. I want to speak again a little bit more about Tel's cameo and what you made of that, because I'm sure you'll agree with me that some of the abuse that he's received recently for missing that penalty is shocking. So I think we all want him to do well. Can you see it working for him this season?
Yeah, I believe he'll have a good season just because he's got a serious coach there behind him and they're going to work out what he's not been doing to then make sure he's at least in the right positions. But I thought he played okay for what I wasn't expecting him to come on and score, but I wanted him to at least able to hold the ball up, have some type of link-up play and at least get a shot. That's all I was asking for, and to be honest, he did everything I asked for. We have to just remember right now, our third choice forward/winger is a young gun, and we can't then put all our hopes onto that because if he was, we'd have still kept Lancashire. So for me, it's going to take time, and I just feel like he's in the right space with the right manager to at least make sure he's going to be there, because we haven't seen these players have to play a structured formation properly, which isn't just all gun-ho attack. So it's going to be interesting to see what Tel's going to be able to bring. Because let's be real, Frank's turned players who no one knew about into players who was bagging 20 goals. So it's possible.
That's absolutely true. I hope you're right on that. Thank you, Justin, for that. Good points there. Jacob, did we put Bournemouth under enough pressure at the end? Peter says there that okay, he looked a tiny bit promising, but he never felt convinced that we were going to score. And he said there about Bournemouth getting a goal on the counter. Do you feel the same? That it just didn't look like still there's anything really about us that could break down this Bournemouth team?
Yeah, and it was like you can't really blame Thomas Frank, because I just looked on the bench and thought, starting lineup, we can all argue that, but I looked at it and thought Thomas Frank's done everything he wanted to do. I'm sitting there saying throw the kitchen sink at it. He brings Tell on. All of a sudden we've got 4 forwards. I'm saying bring Bergvall back into a deep line role. We did that. We had a back 4. We weren't really defensive because we chose to be. We were defensive because Bournemouth played that well. So no matter what we did, you got to give hats off to Bournemouth, really. Like I said it on my video, like most people, all my friends, when I did a video, they were like, oh, we're going to get the popcorn out and watch this one. But I was like, go on then, your popcorn will still be there. Because I was literally giving Bournemouth credit where it's due. Sometimes you've just got to do that. You look at what Luis Enrique did when we played them. First thing he did when they licked up the Super Cup is say, realistically, Tottenham deserve to win that. That's what you got to do in football sometimes. So, yeah, it's one of those where I didn't really feel we're going to do it, and it was just a lack of personnel. Like, I just looked on the bench and thought, it don't matter if we had Guardiola, it don't matter if we had Mourinho in his pump. What are you supposed to do with a bench like that? And this is the reason why a lot of Tottenham fans kick off about Daniel Levy, because, fair enough, he does put his money in his pocket where he does, he does spend money, because otherwise it'd be a bit mad if he didn't. But, he does things that a lot of people will be blind to seeing. Like, for instance, Xabi Simons. Do we get Xabi Simons if there weren't a protest coming along? Like, it's a bit weird. I know a couple of people that are going to a protest on Saturday, and then all of a sudden, Xabi Simons is, being brought in. I don't think there was too many people at that protest.
Absolutely. I do plan to get onto that. But tell you what, we will discuss it now because Jacob's brought it up. Peter, I mean, apparently it wasn't good numbers changed the Tottenham protest. I mean, do you support there being a protest at that time? Because there's two sides to the coin there. Some people look at it and go, why now? We're signing players. Why don't you wait until the end of the window? But Jacob's raised the other side, and it's a good point. It's happened before, isn't it? In previous seasons under previous managers, we've launched a protest and there's been action, whether it be, I think we launched one and there was remember we lost to Newcastle, if I remember correctly, and then we got the apology from the club and the players offering to refund the tickets. We see different players signed. It does clearly work. Is that fair to say, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, obviously protests, the owners will see the protest. They'll be hurt by it, seeing loads of fans against them. And I do kind of agree with the point that I think certain fans are quite reactionary. They see we brought in Xavi Simons. They think, well, let's not go to the protest now because we brought in a star player like Xavi Simons. And it does make you wonder, is Levy only doing this to silence the fans almost? And if there wasn't a protest, would we have Xavi Simons at our club right now? But I don't know. Some people might not be on board with the protest. That might be why the numbers are possibly low. But I've seen there have been previous protests where the numbers have been high. So I think it just depends on the context of our situation. Because I think last season when we were doing quite bad league form-wise, I think that's when the protests numbers were quite high. And I think a lot of fans are frustrated right now at the ownership. And I also am quite frustrated as well. I think there could be a little bit more investment to take us to that next level, because I feel we are slipping slightly away from that big six, especially in terms of our spending. So I would like to see a bit more effort in the transfer windows. But to be fair, this window, I can't complain so far, especially if we bring in another backup centre-back and a left winger.
That would be lovely. I mean, time is ticking. That's the only worry. At the time of recording, we've got about 21 hours to go. But I hope you're right. 2 more players. You certainly will be having me happy. Justin, talk to me. Change for Tottenham. What do you make of the work they're doing? Have you got any suggestions on where they can improve and increase numbers?
Yeah, I like what they're doing. I like anywhere where you've got a voice to, especially when it comes to your football team. For everyone, that's passion. It's in their blood, it's in their heart. So when you're seeing it poorly run, you're gonna want to at least voice. And they're doing their job. I just feel like message-wise, because obviously timing, I understood why they wanted to do it, because you do a protest after the window's shut, nothing can really be done. So if you do a protest while the window's still open, it at least puts pressure on the board to do something. I just feel like message-wise, because we've just come off the back of 2 nice wins. We've just signed in a top young superstar, so naturally people are going to be thinking, why would you protest? But if the message is we're protesting because all of these should have been done ages ago. Maddison got injured, a while back. Morgan Gibson flopped a while back, and you've taken this long to at least bring in players. You still know that there's a lot of positions in the club what need to be filled, and you're taking your time with it. And that's if you push the messages, and that's why we're doing it. We're fully in support of Frank, but how he's already being treated is just showing that the club don't really care, because you can't have your message of I want to win the Premier League, I want to win the Champions League, and then wait to the last 48, 72 hours of the window to then start filling in holes what was already needed to be filled in when the season ended. So I get it. I like what they're doing, but I feel like if they're more vocal on the actual specific message of what that specific protest is for, then yeah, it'll be a lot easier to get out, because then all the fans who aren't happy with the protest at least understand more of why you are protesting. Because a lot of fans will be like, oh, you just signed a player, why would you want to protest? Well, it's like, well, naturally we could have had that player plus a winger in long time ago, and then we would have no reason to protest. We're able to see that there is actual change happening with Tottenham.
Very good points. There's that communication that you're mentioning there. Yeah, no, it's a very good point. Maybe some kind of video or newsletter to anyone that's interested, saying, look, this is why. Yeah, I think absolutely that transparency is key. Thank you, Justin. It's very valid suggestions. But the game did end 1-0 Bournemouth. Jacob, would you say that was a harsh reality check?
Yeah, with any club, sometimes you need that, especially because we was all floating in a bubble, weren't we? We were all looking at it, you know, as Tottenham fans looking at it thinking, well, with the results that we had, we're unstoppable. But I'm like, there's going to be a game where, you know, not just by the fans being too arrogant, but the players as well. I feel I think a little bit of arrogance crept into the team, because we've just signed Xavi Simons. Everyone's talking about, oh, Tottenham, are they a threat for this season? Everyone's in a bubble. You know, I know people that went to the game yesterday and they're like, yeah, can't wait. You know, talking about 3-1 this, 3-1 that. And, you know, we all felt confident that we should get a result against Bournemouth. But I remember saying to my friend of mine, and I said, like, it's weird how I feel more confident against Man City than I do against Bournemouth, because Thomas Frank has spent a lot of time being the underdog. So when Brentford have they've been at home to Man United and beat them. They've been at home to us, or been away to Man City and beat them, you know. But then when you put Brentford on your accumulator to beat Bournemouth at home, they go and lose. Or when they play Nottingham Forest, they go and lose. And that's something that Tottenham do quite a lot as well. You know, we've gone to Old Trafford and slapped up Man United. We've gone to City and beat, like last season, you got to think, we beat Man United 3-0 and beat Man City 4-0 and finished 17th. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, Thomas Frank will get that right. And, you know, just like any other manager, you know, you look at Guardiola when he come to Man City, you know, he came in, everyone thought he was going to work wonders, just about got top 4. And he was like, right, I need to rip this up. Got rid of your Fernandos. He got rid of Dzekos, all these people that didn't understand his philosophy, brought in your Bernardo Silvas and all these guys, and then gradually dominated. You know, Arteta, you know, he might not have won stuff, but he's got rid of all the players that he wants, and then he's nearly won the league a couple of times. So, you know, for us to think that Thomas Frank's going to come in and get us finishing first or second, just like that, ain't going to work, because he's going to find out what we already know about some of these players, that as much as they might turn up at the Etihad and do well, they're not going to do well in some games. So, you know, it's one of those where I think everybody needs a reality check, and it's probably the best time just over an international break, because Thomas Frank can go back with his coaching staff and think what they're going to do. You know, the players can go away and then come back and figure out what they're going to do. And we've got, I think it's West Ham we got away next, and generally we would have thought we was going to win that. But after the result that they pulled off today, we better have our heads about us, because that's their cup final. So even if they lost today, they probably would have been, they'll turn up for that game, and we've got to be on top, especially with Kuda's coming back.
Yeah, we absolutely have to be. Thank you, Jacob, for that. A couple of bits of information and stats here. So, firstly, the attendance at the Tottenham Stadium was 61,250. Here are the two unique stats. One is not surprising, but I mean, it would be for people who maybe don't follow football. Opta Joe saying that Tottenham have failed to win the corresponding fixture after beating Manchester City for the 9th consecutive occasion. That's an awful lot. And the other stat is that Tottenham haven't won their first match for an international break since October of 2023. A lot of people saying 2015 in the chat. I'm afraid that is a full statistic that was posted yesterday that has now been removed. It is 2023, but still a very long while. Before that, in 2023, it was a little while before we'd won an international break, but still not good reading for Tottenham Hotspur and supporters at all. Justin, would you say there's any need to panic, or for you, is it just a bad day at the office? You know, we go again after the international break and try and put it right?
No real need to panic. I just feel like we just needed that nice little wake-up call just to bring everyone back in, remind themselves we are Tottenham, not as in the Tottenham of how the other fans talk about us, but the Tottenham we actually know that even on our highest highs, there's always a low waiting to just creep up. So, yeah, it's the perfect time for that to happen because, yeah, we get a nice little break. The coaching staff get to really look at the team. And then, especially when all the players come back together, we'll sit down in that first training and be like, look, boys, come on. Like, we can't let that happen again. Especially for West Ham away, you can't get a better game to come back. Like, it's the ultimate game to come back because they have to step up. And as fans, we already know our away fans are going to make the most noise. So I'm just hoping the players look at this and be like, look, we have to step up. This is one of the most important seasons we're going to have at this club. And it's time to just run with this.
Thank you. Peter, what went wrong for you in this game? We're just not at the races for you?
Yeah, I think we looked quite slow and lethargic, to be honest. And to be honest, I think it was more the fact that Bournemouth were absolutely superb and we kind of took the game too lightly, too overconfident, like it was said earlier. Like almost we were expected to win. But like you mentioned before, we went into the game and I knew we hadn't won before an international break for a while. And I was always in the back of my mind, I was thinking, we've got to change this someday. We've got to change this. Let's just get that win before the international break. Had that nice 2-week period, you know. We could have been top of the league, but with Spurs, like you said, there's always positives, and you just get brought right back down there with a negative. And unfortunately, yesterday's performance summed up perfectly that. But I think it was more the fact that Bournemouth were absolutely superb, and their game plan was spot on. You've got to praise Adoni Iraola for that.
Absolutely. Justin, do you agree that Bournemouth deserve credit for their game plan? That would be the manager and also the performance put in by the players.
Yeah, 100%. I was watching a Bournemouth podcast literally the night before. And they were saying that Frank has beat Areola every single time. It's either beat him or drawn. He's never lost to him. So I was thinking, well, that's the Tottenham way then. As soon as I heard that, it's like when you hear a forward, when the commentator says, this forward hasn't scored for 2 years. Hey, well, Dr. Tottenham's always waiting around the corner. So, yeah, no, they did well. And to be honest, I just wanted to see more of the reaction of what Frank's going to do to try and adjust it. I already know what the players' mentality is like. We've seen it. We know if it's an important game, they're going to step up. If it's not, that's when I want to see if they're going to step it up. And they just showed again that they're not there just yet. But I feel like after a while, especially Frank coaches, I feel like he's going to drill that into them that whether you like it or not, you're going to have to run. You're going to have to run. You're going to have to be in them spaces. And if not, I'm hoping the players who are waiting, so the Greys, the Bergvals, I'm hoping they're ready to actually step up and be like, well, I've been waiting to shine, so let me just do it. Because they're going to be a lot more fearless than the players who are there at the moment.
Yeah, okay. That's a very good point you make again. Peter, would you say that Bournemouth were just better than us in every department? You know, sharper, maybe wanted it more and just up for the fight?
100%. I mean, every second ball they seem to be winning it. I mean, I don't know what our game plan was, to be honest, because it seemed to be try and get it up to Richarlison and he flicks it on. But I think their new centre-back, Diakite, is it? I mean, he seemed to win every single long ball that went up to him. And then I was thinking, okay, now let's try win the second ball. We managed to lose this out on the second ball. And I think I mentioned it earlier. I think Tyler Adams, for me, I know Semenyo was amazing, but I think Tyler Adams personally was man of the match. He won every single ball. He dictated the play in the midfield. I just think overall, Bournemouth looked a lot sharper, a lot quicker on the ball. And I think there was a lot of misplaced passes from Spurs as well. I think I remember rightly in the second half, especially from Bentancur, there was a lot of sloppy passes that just weren't quite reaching the players, or overhit, underhit, and I think that really what cost us the game in the end.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. Again, Jacob, would it be fair to say that Tottenham had no control of this game?
Yeah, it was just a mix. It was a mix. If you wanted to describe what you don't want to happen in the game in the Premier League, otherwise you'll lose it. Tottenham did everything. You couldn't pass, couldn't get it up to the striker, and even if they tried to get up to the striker, he couldn't hold it up. You couldn't get your attacking players into the game. Your defensive players weren't on job. It's like when you've got all of that happening, you could be playing Charlton, mate. You're going to lose. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it was the passing, like Peter said, was horrible. Like, I remember, I don't know if you remember, there was one point here where Bentancur had the ball. He's looking at Kudos. You can see, and I'm like, yeah, go on and release it. But then it's like it took an extra 3 seconds. Alex Scott's come into the picture, and then he's just gone, there you go, Al. Do you want the ball? Like, I was just like, I was looking at it, going mad, going, how have you done that? Like, I'm nowhere near as good as Bentancur, but I promise you I wouldn't do that. Just because it's like, if you're going to pass it when you feel like passing it. And have you got to the point where Alex Scott's made the run to intercept that pass, look back inside and recycle the ball again, pass it back to your centre-back, pass it back to the keeper if you want. Don't just pass it there when you was going to do it half hour ago, because half hour, you give enough time for players to get back into position. So it was just, like I said, I'm not going to overreact. There's no point, because if it was, as much as Ange brought us in silverware, if he kept his job and that was Ange in the helm, then I'd have gone, mate, have you not learned from last season? And realistically, we've got to be real with ourselves. Does Ange get the results that Thomas had before this? No, that's the reason why everyone was gassed. So we all know that Thomas Frank can get it right. It's just going to get to the point where if Tottenham fans think that ain't going to happen again, it will, because you've got your top 6 teams traditionally that are good sides, but then you've got your Bournemouths, you've got your Brightons. Sometimes even, Wolverhampton, everyone says Wolves ain't good, but on their day, there's days where they have good days and they'll beat you. So, you've got Everton that are back in the fold. So I just think it was a mixture of Thomas Frank not really understanding, having an eye opener to the fact that you have got players that are good on their day, but sometimes they're going to be inconsistent. And you'll find in the next season or two, should Thomas Frank keep the job, that half those players that played yesterday probably either won't be at Tottenham or they're on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely that. Thank you very much. And talking of no control, let's talk about referee Simon Hooper and his performance in this game. Peter, did he have any control of the game?
I mean, I'm not one to try blame everything on the referees, especially when our performance was quite poor, but I don't think it was good showing from the referees. I mean, across the Premier League this weekend, you saw in the Fulham Chelsea game a lot of controversy. Even the Man United Burnley game, quite a bit of controversy again. But Simon Hooper yesterday, it seemed he seemed to just not give fouls when there were fouls, and then give fouls when there wasn't fouls. It happened for both ways, to be honest. There were certain times when I thought Spurs got away with a couple challenges and the ref kind of played on. There was times when Bournemouth had a couple 50-50s going their way that I thought, I think we've won the ball there. But the main talking point was definitely the Semenyo second yellow. And for me, how the referee didn't give that in the end was just, I couldn't believe. I think the whole stadium was 100% sure he was going to, send him off there, give him the second yellow. I think Semenyo himself fought for a second. I think he was by the touchline ready to walk off at one point. But he didn't give it in the end. I think Bournemouth got away with it, but our performance in the end, I don't know if it would have affected the game that much, to be honest, because our performance was just not good enough. So I don't think we can blame the referee too much, despite Simon Hooper's, poor performance.
Thank you very much, Peter. Justin, it's not the main reason we lost, as Peter says there, though, is it? As frustrating as it is to have decisions go against you and to maybe have an official that gives everything and then lets things go when you don't want it to happen. So as much as frustrating it is, we've got to look at ourselves, don't we, and our own performance and how to improve.
Yeah, 100%. You know your style of football and everything you've been training for that whole week's gone when you're relying on the referee to save you. And to be honest, the performance was just so poor that you can even tell there was no saving. Like, yeah, Semenya should have been sent off, and yeah, a couple challenges should have been dealt with. But the fact that we were playing that poor is why we then are now looking at the referee, because I don't mind how the referee performs as long as we get the win. But the standard of refereeing every single year is just decreasing. It's actually ridiculous. They'll add on new rules, they'll add on more technology, but you'll still have these type of things slip past you. So I'm just hoping again, Frank and the whole team just look at this and be like, cool. First of all, naturally, we're not going to have to play the same anyway because we're going to have Chabi there. But I'm just hoping he's now seen this and being like, well, if Chabi picks up an injury over the international break, touch wood, the pause as well, that's all a wild one. But yeah, no, it's you just never know. You never know. You never know. I'm just hoping that the players up their game because you can never rely on referees to get the right decisions either way.
100%. I agree with you around the inconsistency. But Tottenham not the only team that maybe will feel hard done by this weekend. There are others that be even more hard done by. I think you guys have mentioned them. I think Fulham will top the list for this week, and Burnley not too far behind either. Jacob, come back round to you. Did Vicario keep us in the game and stop Bournemouth by winning by more?
Yeah, it's a mixture of Vicario having a really good game. It's the best he's probably had for a while, but then it's a mixture of that and Bournemouth just not finishing their dinner. Like realistically, if let's say, I'm trying to think of a team, they've got like obviously Liverpool are a better team, but Liverpool have got if we gave Liverpool those chances, that would have been 9-0, just because they've got Salah, they've got Ekitike, they've got Gakpo, them kind of guys. That would have been 9-0. But because they couldn't finish, Evan Nielsen had quite a few chances. It does help that Vicario did well, but it was just an absolute stinker. Like, when you look at the team, the only people that actually played well was Vicario and Van de Ven. They're the only people that seemed like they broke up and had breakfast. Like everybody else seemed like they had a hangover. It was just weird. Like, again, when I look at Richarlison, for instance, it felt, I don't know what you guys think, but it felt like Richarlison, when he's got Solanke sat on the bench, that's probably why he's got that performance out of him, because he's thinking, right, if I smash it, Thomas Frank has said I'm his number 9, I'm going to keep it here. He's woke up and seen Solanke off the bench. Maybe he's had a stinker because he knows he's not coming off. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Sometimes you do get players like that where when there's no competition around them, they play crap. As soon as a new signing comes in, all of a sudden they start smashing it. So, Vicario kept us in the game for sure, but I just think Bournemouth, if they'd not won that game, they'd be looking at themselves. Every single player would have got on that bus and thought, I don't know how many chances I had and I didn't score them.
That's the thing. And Bournemouth play really well, but they do not take their chances. That's the story. That's Tottenham Stadium last year. Although it ended 2-2, they scored 2 goals, and there's so many in that first half. They could have easily been 3 or 4 up. This time, they got, some would say, their reward. Peter, I want to continue talking about Vicario because I went back and watched the highlights. I just couldn't believe how many saves he meant. I was inside the stadium. I knew it was Bournemouth wave after Bournemouth wave after Bournemouth wave, but I didn't realise quite how many saves that Vicario made. But I think we've seen a different side to his game than we've seen under Ange Postecoglou. Now Thomas Frank is the manager. Of course, he still saw the saves, but in terms of distribution, a lot more long goal kicks. He's taking free kicks rather than playing out from the back.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked when I saw him. When we had a free kick in their half and he was taking it, I was like, oh, okay, this is something new. But I mean, Vicario really saved us that game from making it about 3-4-0. He made 2 or 3 excellent saves. I was like, wow. And you can tell he's a really top goalkeeper. I mean, I've seen it in the comments from Lucas saying, can we upgrade Vicario? I think maybe in the future, yes, but I don't think it's a priority now because his shot stopping, I personally think he's one of the best in the league with his shot stopping. I'm just a bit concerned about him when he's coming to claim crosses. I think that was his biggest fault, especially last season, where he just didn't seem in control, especially from corners and set pieces. But like you said, his distribution seems to have improved. I know there's a bit of competition there with Kinsey because everyone says his distribution's a bit better, but I think Vicario, his biggest quality is his shot stopping. And that's his expertise, really. And that's what kept us in the game with his amazing saves yesterday.
Certainly did. Thank you, Peter. Justin, are you concerned with how open and vulnerable we look? Because, I mean, we're all going to have bad days at the office. And you have, teams that will go into games expect to win and won't win. That's normal in football. It happens. But what really concerned me was just like how many goals it looked like we could concede, and just like a kind of knife through butter we saw under Ange Postecoglou. Would you say we looked vulnerable?
Yeah, we was vulnerable. I'm not too worried because again, it's early, so I feel like Frank will able to drill that. So we have to remember our players have gone 2 years without caring about defending. And I'm saying that respectfully because not all the players, but a lot of players so far, anytime they've been praising the new manager, it's about how much he's focused on defending. And I didn't hear that once from a player while under Ange. So I feel like naturally the players can easily revert back to that chaotic movement and not fully paying attention and trying to, especially when you're a goal down, now you're just wanting to focus on attacking, and that's what they've been doing for 2 seasons. So I wasn't too worried. It was just a bit of a shock to see it because after how we've been playing for the games before that, we haven't been ripped open like that. Even through pre-season, we wasn't just getting, other than the Bayern game, we was not getting ripped open left, right, and centre. So I'm not too worried. It was just more disappointed that a lot of these players are the same jokers who lost us 20 odd games last season, shedded in a hell of a lot of goals, and that part isn't there in their mind to be like, look, boys, let's make sure we don't let in goals. At least let's do that. So I'm not too worried, but yeah, it was just a little concerning that we've got our three defensive mids on, we've got our best back line, and we was just, way too many chances.
100% agree with that again. Justin, thank you. Peter, I mean, the first Spurs shot on goal came in the 68th minute. I mean, that's not very good reading at all, is it?
I mean, there was ironic cheers from the around the stadium when it happened, but it wasn't exactly the most exciting shot as well. I think it was right down the middle, wasn't it, from Bergvall? But I think the performance yesterday was just a bit too slow, and that showed in the amount of shots we created and our chance creation, and just the lack of creativity in general. And that's what I'm hoping where Xavi Simons can come in and maybe spark that energy, And I think what we missed yesterday was someone that could come deep, bring the ball from deep, and carry it up the field. That's the kind of person we missed. I'm hoping Xavi Simons can be that person, and hopefully we create more chances and manage to get more shots. But it was worrying yesterday. First shot on target being, 65th minute, I think you said, and I think it was actually the only shot on target we had for the rest of the game, wasn't it? So it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't too promising, to be honest, especially after we had such a good start to the season, beating Burnley 3-0, Man City away 2-0. You're thinking we're winning games, keeping clean sheets, scoring goals, and then you put up a performance like that without getting many shots on target. It was quite worrying.
And we had that whole of the first half that having a shot. I mean, we used to moan under Ange Postecoglou when we have a first half, we wouldn't have a shot on target. We'd just have one or two. I remember people moaning. We didn't have a single shot in that first half, which is, of course, a real shame. But, Jacob, although I think we could probably all agree at times on Saturday we looked defensively vulnerable, it would be fair to say that that's in stark contrast to what we've seen under Frank so far, wouldn't it? PSG, Burnley, City, we all looked very secure and disciplined defensively, didn't we? And very organised.
Yeah, I think that part of the game I haven't got a problem with, especially when. But I think what the main problem is that when we've played those games, we've been defensively solid and we've had output because PSG probably didn't do their research on Kudus. Kudus probably caught them off guard. Burnley, even if they did their research on Kudus, probably couldn't do nothing to stop him. That's why he got 2 assists. And then Man City kind of underestimated us with Kudus and then caught again. But out of all the managers, Ariola's the one that thought, right, we can't be taking Kudus and Tottenham lightly. Let's have a look. I feel out of all the games we've played, I think he's the only manager that's actually watched a couple of DVDs on how to stop Tottenham. And that's why, like, when we bring Xavi Simons in, brilliant. But my thing is that when you're looking at a transfer window, where you're looking at over a period of time, where you're bringing in players and you're bringing in resource, you can only give it an 8 or 9 out of 10 if we've brought in a Xavi Simons, and if he gets injured, it's like no injury, no problem. Now, let's imagine he comes in against West Ham, and we, take West Ham apart, and everyone's like, Xavi Simons, what a player. And then we go into the next game after that. Xavi Simons, first game at home, let's say. Well, I think we've got Brighton away. So he goes to Brighton away, we do it again. Everyone's going to be like, right, watch out for Tottenham. But then the minute that Xavi Simons pulls up on the floor with a hamstring, we're all like, straight away, we're all going to go back to this game. Because we're going to be like, right, we've got to go back to that again. And it's like, we've got no options now because all three of our number 10s are out injured. So I know we're not going to do it. But my thing is, if you were going to bring in the Xavi Simons, no problem. If you're going to bring in another left winger, cool. But then you need to bring in another number 10, let's say, or have another 10 available. Because, again, like I alluded to, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're Xavi Simons, but Maddison's fit, you're going to play out your skin because you know that Maddison's going to come off the bench. And if he scores or assists, you might get put out in the left where you don't want to play, or you might be on the bench for the Champions League game against Real Madrid. Do you get what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's one of those where there's not much really you could do about it. We just need numbers really, because I'm looking at the squad, and if we get top 6, I'll be happy with it.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. I think a lot of people feel the same with what we've got right now. A lot of it does depend on deadline day, but realistically, there's not long left to go. And the more we talk as well, the window is going as well quicker. Let's quickly talk about transfers then before we end. Peter, I'll come to you. What do Spurs need before deadline day?
I think I said it earlier. I think the two main priorities for us this summer is a backup centre-back and a left winger. I know there's been a couple rumours and names being thrown out by these journalists online. I think the two main ones for the centre-back seem to be the Man City stars, Ake and Akanji. And me personally, I'd take both, like either one of them. But I think we do need a left-sided player. So I wouldn't mind Ake, but I've read, I don't know how true these rumours are. He doesn't really want to come, whereas Akanji's more, eager to come. So I feel like if that's the case, bring in Emmanuel Kanji and hopefully he can play, as a backup left centre-back, because we do seriously need squad depth at the back, because we saw what happened last year. When Van der Ven and Romero got injured, we had to play Archie Gray at centre-back with Ben Davis. That's really where our season derailed almost. So we can't be having that happen again if Van der Ven and Romero get injured, especially with the amount of games we'll be playing this year, with Carabao Cup, FA Cup and the 8 Champions League games minimum. So we don't really have in that. And then in terms of left wingers, I mean, my dream's always been Savinho personally. I think he's such an amazing player. We saw glimpses of his quality last season at Man City. I know people say his output hasn't been the best, only scoring 1 goal in the league. But I think when you watch him, you can see his undeniable talent and his quality on the ball. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's happening. So personally, I would like Ademola Lookman. I think he's a quality player. Whether we can get it over the line by tomorrow, that's a doubt. Semenyo would be another one, but again, a bit unrealistic. So you just never know with Spurs. But I'm hoping it'll be Akanji and Lookman.
Okay, so a couple of players for you. Thank you, Peter. Jacob, what do Spurs need on deadline day? By all means, talk to me about positions and any players that you'd like to see us get in the door.
Yeah, I probably agree with Peter, really. You want Akanji's one that, if I had to prioritise, it'd be that one, because we're only one injury at the back from Ben Davies coming in. Now, Ben Davies has always made a scapegoat. And I love his professionalism, I love his loyalty, but sometimes you've got to move on. We've all got jobs. If you've been in jobs, there's someone in your office or on your construction site, nice guy, nice woman, but we can get a better person to do that job. So that just because you're a nice guy and you're professional doesn't mean that you're going to keep your job. Do you know what I mean? So Akanji would be one. He's a winner. He's won, multiple titles with Man City. Lookman would be another one. But for me, these are all players that Tottenham generally go and get. Now, if you want your rivals, so to speak, to think, right, Tottenham are on stuff, yeah. Xavi Simons is one where everybody goes, that's a good signing, because you get in. I was having Arsenal fans, Man United fans messaging me going, that's a big boy signing, But for me, Tottenham should be doing something like this. Now, Rodrigo's been sat there for ages. No one's really going for him. Now, if Tottenham, say last week, went over to Madrid and said to Rodrigo, look, you ain't got to sign for us, right? We don't even have to put an obligation to buy. come to Tottenham, play in the Premier League. You're going to start week in, week out. You can show Madrid what they're missing out on, and you can use us as leverage if you want to go and get a big move somewhere else. So if Rodrigo come to Tottenham, absolutely spanked it, and say we won trophies with him, he might decide that he wants to stay with us. But if he doesn't want to stay with us, but we finished in the Champions League spots, or better yet, we won a couple of trophies, you'll be remembered forever. So you go and have that conversation with Rodrigo and say, look, it's just come and the stage is yours. You know, get Gareth Bale to give him a ring and say, "Oh, you're right, mate. Do you remember me?" You know what I'm saying? You can do that, but we sit there with Lookman. I love Lookman, but Lookman is somebody that we'll get because it's realistic. Whereas last week, if someone said to me, "Do you think Xabi Simons is realistic?" No. Why? Because I thought he was going Chelsea, but then we got him. So if you start making moves like that, whether it be this window or the next window, that's when I start believing that Tottenham can go places. But like I say, for now, with the financial constraints, and Daniel Levy ain't exactly going to spend sort of loads of money in the window. You know, if I woke up first thing in the morning and seen the Kanjis, you know, at the training ground, and then sort of 5 o'clock, Lookman's there, then happy days, I'm all right with that. But then, even though I'm all right with it, I'd still be worried that we've got to rely on Xavi Simons to stay fit up until Maddison and Kulusevski come back, which is a long time. So at the very earliest, we need Xavi Simons to stay fit till January, and hope that Daniel Levy is going to put his hand in his pocket in January, which we all know generally don't happen.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Thank you very much. And Justin, what do we need for you on deadline day, realistically?
Oh, realistically, yeah, then it's just going to be a left wing and a left centre back who can play left back. But me personally, I want to get in another striker as well. I've been wanting to do that from the start of the season because I know I can't rely on Richie. Dom, I'm not too worried about his fitness because before he come to us, he wasn't missing games. So I'm not really too worried about that. Left wing, I want like a Leao or someone like that. I just want another big name. What's just going to be like, okay, Tottenham are actually trying to do some business. I'd like to get in a creative midfielder as well. So we're not just relying on Xavi to have to do everything. Because if Basuma's going, we're at least losing a man in midfield. So I'd do a little cheeky bit and grab in Alex Scott as a Tottenham fan as well. So I feel like that'd be a nice cheeky one. But yeah, as long as we get in 2 players and it has to be a left winger and it has to be at least a defender who can cover left back, then I'll be okay till Jan, because if I'm correct, Paratici's back them times, so we can start getting the ball rolling to be getting in some players. But yeah, we are an injury or 2 away from having shambles at this club, and we can't go for another season of this. So I'm hoping the board at least look at that and think, even a stopgap. Like I wanted a cheeky bid for Modric. I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking Modric on a little 6 month. Get me? He can just play the Champions League games. You know what I'm saying? Just to bring back that type of that good feel back at the lane. But yeah, I'm just praying. This is the one time I'm on full on hope, and I'm just praying that he pulls out some magic over this last couple of hours, just to make sure that we're not then struggling, because you can't sack a manager for not competing on all 4 fronts, but then getting a new manager and not providing the players to battle on all 4 fronts. It just makes no sense.
Exactly that. Are you confident though, Justin, deep down, that we can get business done on deadline day?
Oh yeah, because deadline day is Daniel's best time. This is bargain time. This is the time where a team needs money, and he will happily move about and do the business. Like, it's a shame because I see Paqueta do the little badge thing after he scored, but I was hoping this guy do a cheeky one because West Ham always need money. So I believe this is the best time for him. The beginning of the transfer window and at the end of the transfer window is the best optimal time for Levy, because there's bargains, there's opportunities, the phone tappings there ready to find out what players getting bidded for. So he's ready for it. But yeah, I at least expect 2 players, and I'm actually confident that he will do that. 2 quality players, I'm not too sure about, but I can see us definitely getting 2 players.
Okay, thank you. And Peter, out of the positions you mentioned, left winger, centre back, what can wait till January? I know it's frustrated to wait. We want these players now, but if you said, well, if I said to you could only sign 1 player, centre back or left winger, would it be left wing?
I think left wing has to be the priority this summer. Yeah, I think as much as I worry about our depth at the back, I mean, we've got Dragusin coming back soon, I guess, which will do. And we've got Danto, I think, is one of the best backup centre-backs in the league. I mean, he could easily push for starter. He's that good. But I think you can see on the left wing, we are really, really lacking that spark, that extra something. I think Wilson Odobert could be that person, but he's just not quite there yet. He's one for the future. Brennan Johnson, I love him personally for everything he's done for us, scoring in Bilbao. But his creativity, he's a finisher. He's not a provider, and I think that's my biggest worry with him. And that's why I think we need to bring in a left winger that can create chances, especially for Frank's system. Because with Ange's system, it was more get the ball to the byline, cut it back, and Johnson will be there to tap it in, and it worked perfectly for him. But under Frank's system, we're not going to be seeing that as much, and I feel for Johnson because he's going to be remembered as a legend for the club, but I just think we need a left winger right now. I think that's the main priority this summer. I'm really hoping we can bring someone of a high quality in. I know Leao was mentioned earlier, and I would love Leao, but I think he wants to stay at Milan and loves Milan so much. So I don't know if that's possible. So I'm hoping. I love Lookman, and I really hope it is Lookman. I think he's the perfect buy. I know it's a perfect opportunity buy for Levy because Atalanta want to sell him. He wants to leave Atalanta. Deadline day. Levy's going to be all over that. So I'm just hoping we can get that done by tomorrow.
Hopefully. And come on, Levy and Tottenham. I mean, we're being quite open here. We're saying loads of different names. Savinha, Lookman, Semenya, Leao. There's a load of names that we'll be happy to see come in the door. Let's make sure we do sign someone. The only thing I am worried about is that what I call panic buy on deadline day because you can't bring someone in. I was very, very worried about that with the number 10 position. I think we've ended up signing a good player. Jacob, does that concern you a little bit that Tottenham could look at it in maybe even the centre-back situation, just go that anyone's better than nothing and maybe bring in a player that's not right for the dressing room or isn't right for the system?
Yeah, you know how Daniel Levy works. How many players, if I gave you a notepad and said, how many players do you think of that you think the manager didn't buy that player?
Yeah,
it's
Joe
Roden. Joe Roden. I believe Brennan Johnson's in that category because you look I do agree where Brennan Johnson does get slack because he's the most difficult player that I have to critique just because I moan that all he does is score goals, but goals win you games. Do you get what I'm saying? So he's annoying, but yeah, that's the one thing I do fear. I fear that Daniel Levy is going to want to shut up. He doesn't really care about Tottenham fans because if he did, he'd do everything right. I was on a pod again last week and I said, in life, when someone does something once, you kind of go, all right, then cool, everyone makes a mistake. Someone does it a second time, you kind of all right, well, you can make a mistake a second time, but I'm going to be a little bit more cautious in what you're doing. And then a third time, you're like, no, this is just becoming a pattern now. So you would do that with a woman that you've been with a relationship for 3 years if she kept cheating on you. Daniel Levy's been doing this to me since I was 20. That's 20 years. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's you can't. It's beyond a pattern. It's just what he does. So for me, it's again when it comes, Daniel Levy splits opinion because when I applaud him for what he does business wise. If I ran a business and gave it to Daniel Levy to look after, I'll be jamming, but I would never give him a football team to look after because he's as much as you have got to focus on buyback. If you're buying a player for 30-40 million, are you going to make money on that, or at very least going to get your money back? So that's the reason why we buy your Archie Graves for 40 million because everyone's hyping up about him, and you think even if it doesn't work out and you get 25 million, fair dues, okay. You still relatively got your money back. So that's where my issue lies with Daniel Levy because that Xavi Simons one, as much as it was a good signing, no one would take away from me that he did that just to shut everybody up. There's a lot of signings that he makes to shut us all up, especially when we're trying to do a protest. So now that the protest has gone, the window's shutting tomorrow. We might expect a Lookman, we might expect an Akanji, but I've been there before when I'm expecting all these players and we ended up with Ryan Nelson and Louis Saha.
Exactly that. But I agree with you, like with Levy with the business side of things. It does deserve a lot of credit with rebuilding Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And it's nice to wake up or go to bed at night and know that your club's financially secure. Look around the football pyramid at the moment, and not every club or fans have the luxury of that. So that is very nice. And, you know, look, we take it for granted, really, if you think about it. We haven't got to worry about breaching FFP, PSR, all these regulations. However, I would say, as good as a businessman he is, you know, when you pay the money you do for Ndombele, then pay him actually to rip up his contract, or, you know, you sign Lo Celso and you get nothing back. And there's just a few deals like that. I mean, Jack Clark is a really interesting one. Was it 10, 12 million we paid for him and then got 500k back? There's some really weird ones like that. That summer window of 2019, I mean, Sessegnon leave as a free agent was absolutely disastrous, which kind of leads me on to my last question, which I'm going to give to you, Justin, before we get on to, well, I have got one final one off this. It's the first what I call proper question, and that is, do you think Tottenham's recruitment has been better in this window?
No. I wouldn't really say our recruitment has been better. Yeah, we're signing obviously some good players, but I don't know. I feel like, again, I've got no problem with Matthias Tell, but getting to Kai, I'm just like, what was the focus plan of that, to then now you want it getting another left winger, you're still looking for another centre back. I'm just trying to work out what was the choices. But to be honest, I'm not a fan of Lange anyway, so yeah, I just want this bit of it over and done with. If the rumours are right and Paratici's going to be back, then I'm going to have a lot more confidence on the style and the type of player what we're going to bring in. And I'm not going to ever forgive them for getting Timo Werner twice in it. So I'm always worried about these jumpers.
Absolutely. Exactly. People in it make a joke about Timo Werner, about how he took him off Leipzig and made a good relationship with them so he could get Xavi Simons. It's quite funny, to be fair to you. But I've got one final question. That is, if we sign and sell nobody else while the transfer window shuts, what you guys would rate it out of 10? And to be clear with this, you know, 0 is the lowest, like, oh my God, that's awful. And 10 is amazing. Nothing really at all could have made it better. So I'm going to go no particular order. Peter, I'm going to kick it off with you. What were your thoughts?
So if it was to end now without signing anyone or selling anyone, I'm going to give it a 5, right bang in the middle, because although we have signed, you know, undeniable quality in Kudus and Simons, there's also, you know, glaring holes that needed, you know, fixing. Me personally, that was a left winger. I mean, that's my number one priority. And also player sales. I think we haven't, who we got rid of, really? We haven't got rid of anyone. I think Basuma is going to be out the door, hopefully, because it looks like he's not part of Thomas Frank's plans. So if he's not part of it, he needs to go. We need to get the wages off the bill. Same with Solomon. I think I've seen rumours he might go out on loan to Sheffield United, I've seen recently. So hopefully he goes out. But although we bought him well, I think you can only give it a 5 so far, because we need a backup centre-back and we do need a left winger. I think if we get both of those, depending on the quality, could push it up to the 7 or 8.
7 or 8, yeah, exactly. Some things can change. That's the thing. I wish Levy could see this and go, look, 1 or 2 players. It really does change the whole narrative. Thank you, Peter. Jacob, what are you rating out of 10?
Yeah, I'm the same with Peter. Probably a 5 or 6, maybe. I think everything that Peter said was bang on, but then it's like there's certain transfers that we've made, and I'm like, well, what have you done that for? Now, again, you get a lot of people that jump on the Tell bandwagon, but it's like why did we sign Tell? Like, he didn't really do well last season, and we pretty much gave Thomas Frank like a week or so to decide whether he wants Tell or not. You know, if you said to Thomas Frank, do you want to bring in Tell, but you know that's going to stop you, that's going to hinder you in the transfer window, I don't think he takes him. But I just think Daniel Levy probably told some porkies in between that and forced his hand. And then again, you know, there's certain positions that we've done well that we needed filling. You know, with Paulinho, we needed a number 6 that was combative. We needed a number 10 in Xavi Simons because Maddison was out. We needed Kudos. We needed somebody that was going to be a dynamic, you know, an exciting winger, just like Son, especially with Son leaving. But, you know, when I look at Tottenham's transfer window, obviously running a football club is nothing like Football Manager. But if you lot have played Football Manager, some logic in that game is the same as what you do when you run a club. You look at, so if I started a game with Tottenham Hotspur and it said Daniel Levy expects me to finish in a Champions League spot, win a Carling Cup, and he's given me a budget of 150 million, right? Whenever I start a game up on Football Manager, I get a notepad out and I'm like, right, who do I think is going to get me in the Champions League and who's not? So I'll look at it and go, right, I'm going to get rid of Ben Davies. Bayern Munich offered Tell to me 40 million. No thanks. It's going to get to the point where I look at Romero, injury prone. All right, I'm going to need another one that's quick. You get to the point where you fill in the gaps. Now, if you can't fill in the gaps in the first season and you fall just short, but then Daniel Levy goes, all right, I'm going to give you another chance. Here's another load of money. You'll get to the point where, let's say I'm not happy with Romero in that season. You go and get rid of him. But Tottenham don't do that. Because if we did that, as much as I love Ben Davies as a man, he wouldn't be there. As much as Tell's a 19-year-old kid, he won't be there. Richarlison won't be there. Like, realistically, if you want to win stuff and get to the top echelons of football, you don't have either of our strikers. Simple as that. Like, realistically, let's be real. If let's say we replace either one of our strikers with Evan Nilsson, would you get to the point where you'd think, well, some people would say no, but you'd like, maybe yes, because for a start, he's fitter than Richarlison, and he'll probably score more goals, and he's more effective with Bournemouth. So it's like, we haven't really got the strikers to take us up there. So it's going to take a long process. But, again, I'm going back to it. When I look at the squad that we had last season and what we've got now, I know you brought in Xavi Simons, but that's a 6, man. And the longer the season goes on, it could be a 4. It just depends how they perform.
Yeah, of course, thank you. And if you say, as a chairman, that you want to win the Premier League and Champions League, you've got to back it up by actions.
Yeah.
And I think our recruitment has actually been good, but it's nowhere near enough for a club, in my opinion, that finished 17th in the Premier League last season. Or the other way you could look at it is you win a trophy and you push on. And for me, we just haven't done that. What we've done, we've ticked a few boxes, great, and what we brought in is good, but it's not doing it properly. The way I look at it, it's like a basic example is you're mowing the grass, let's say, and you've done half the garden. You've done it absolutely spotless, 5-star kind of thing, but you've left the other half to kind of rot away, and you fall behind the rest in your kind of town or village because you haven't completed the job. That's the way I see it with Levy and Tottenham. Or a better example would be the house. You've half built it, or you've got a house with no furniture inside, as an example that's used a lot with Tottenham, including the stadium. Justin, what do you rate it out of 10? I'm interested to your rating.
Okay, so the players we got in, Kudos, Xavi, Pau, cool. That'll bump me up to about a 4 or 5. I'll probably give us a 5 or a 6, only mainly because of the loans. Like, I'm actually really happy about the amount of players we've able to loan away for them to get first team football. Because other than that, I'm just looking at the amount of holes what we needed last season. So yeah, I'm gonna be nice and give it a 6 just because of the loanees, what we've actually done. Because other than that, I'm not too impressed on the timing and again the decision making. Because I like Tell, but naturally, would you have wanted him knowing that you're not gonna then able to get in the top quality left winger? And then the same with Takai. Why did we got in a player who's instantly or already injured? Is he already the quality what's going to be getting played? We've just now loaned out Vuskovic, what I wanted him to get first team football. But then, you know what? Another one is that we sold Keeley, which for me was mind blowing because for me, it's better than Kinski, same age as well. So yeah, there's some decisions in our club what baffle me. So yeah, I'll put him as a 6.
That's very fair. I appreciate you all being really balanced and level-headed. Have you got any final comments from anyone before we wrap up for this episode?
Levy out.
On topic. No, thank you. Appreciate you all coming on. Let's go through and see if we can find you across social media. Thank you, Jacob, for a very, very solid debut from yourself. Where can people find you on the socials? Yeah,
just on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter, finding something out and taking a piss out of people, but generally on YouTube. So if you search the one up top, I'll do a review after the game. I've started doing reviews on like the whole weekend and all the big topics with all the games that are going on, and then I normally do a little snippet in the midweek called Only Fools and Tottenham, because there's always something stupid around Tottenham. So again, I'm just waiting to see what happens tomorrow. And if you follow my page and see the notifications, I'm sure by the midweek you'll see something foolish that we've done. So yeah.
Say no more. Thank you though, nonetheless, Jacob. Justin, thank you very much for coming back onto the podcast. Again, where people can find you on the socials and talk to people a little bit about your channel.
Okay, nice. Yeah, thanks for having me again. Yeah, you can find me on X and you can find me on TikTok as well. I normally do a video before the game and after the game. And yeah, I'm just around. I love my team so much. I'm a steward at the games. I'm normally pitch side. So if you're ever about 104, I think block 104, you'll see me there cheering with the team, and I get to banter the away bench as well. So it's always good.
Oh, absolutely lovely that. You got it absolutely sold there. You've convinced me. That's what we like. Thank you, though, nonetheless. Peter, it's been a while, but always an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you on the socials? You got anything coming up?
Thank you. I had such a great time, finally coming back on. Yeah, just on X at Poro Season. I think, it's written there. Yeah, Poro Season. Yeah, that's all it is. That's where you can find me.
Lovely stuff. No, thank you for coming on. All good stuff. Make sure you follow all these guys across all socials. But if you're listening on a podcast platform, thank you for listening to the end. If you made it, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Hope you enjoyed what is first episode of kind of therapy session of the year. We had plenty of them last year. So I hope there's not too many this year, but I hope it's all right for you. If you're listening live on YouTube, still do get involved. Like, subscribe, and whether you're listening on YouTube or on a podcast platform, let us know where you're listening from. We're always kind of interested in what time of day it is, all the interesting stuff. But thank you very much. You know I am Harry Scarfe. Follow all the guys across here. And for now, a massive come on, you Spurs.